What's up, guys? It's Mickey here from the Show Me Reptile show, and today we're going to go over chameleons. So there are 3 species of chameleons that are pretty commonly kept in the reptile community here, and I'm going to kind of walk you through how I would set them up. Not necessarily the only way to set them up, but it's just how I would do it. All right, guys, before we start diving into these enclosure setups, let's talk a little bit about the chameleons. Let's start thinking about where they're native to. So, we're working with animals that are from Madagascar, parts of Africa, all around the Indian Ocean. So what we're trying to do is emulate that habitat in our homes. So another cool fact about the chameleons is they're sexually dimorphic. So a lot of the times the males are extremely beautiful. They have amazing color patterns, and the females are usually pretty dull, but they're still pretty too, but not as pretty as the boys are. While all chameleons do require warm climates, some of them thrive in more desert areas. Today we're going to focus on the ones that are, commonly kept in captivity, which are, more of a tropical species. With that in mind, with these being tropical species, we need to, keep these 3 things in mind and keep them consistent. We're going to need airflow, we're going to need good temperatures, and we're going to need good humidity. So we do have 3 beautiful examples of each one of these species. We have the Jacksons, we have the veiled, and we have the Panther Chameleons here at the St. Peter's store. But before we show you all those guys, we're going to kind of go into, what it takes and show you how to build a perfect chameleon enclosure. All right, so first let's talk about the consistent heating. With like the ZoomEd kit here, the deluxe chameleon kit, they're gonna send you out with a mini deep dome with a 75 watt basking light. That is great option, but for me, so if I was going to build this kit myself, I would just use this this mini combo deep dome, and here's why I would use it. It gives you the option to use UVB in there, or you can use 2 small heat lamps to kind of spread out the heat throughout your enclosure. I know the heat is extremely important, and I like using these because it does spread over the top of, it kind of clusters out the heat a little bit more. So you could use 2 50-watt bulbs in here and kind of spread your heat out a little bit, because what happens in a lot of these chameleon enclosures is people will put a heat source in one corner of the cage, and the rest of the enclosure is just cold. So if we just kind of spread it out a little bit, you're keeping more consistent temperatures. Now, something else that's extremely important with chameleons is UVB. This is one of my favorite fixtures to use for the chameleon kits, because the chameleon kit's 18 by 18. This fixture's 14 inches. It works great. The only thing that I don't agree with in this kit is it comes with the 5.0 bulb. I always prefer to use the 10.0. That way the chameleon's getting the optimal UVB. UVB is extremely important for the chameleon's lifespan. If you don't have it right with a proper calcium and supplement regimen, your animal's going to get sick. But yeah, I like I said, I would always suggest a double dome to kind of spread the heat out a little bit more over more of the enclosure, because your animal's going to self-regulate. It can climb up and down as it wants to stay cooler or get warmer, and we'll dig into that a little bit later whenever we're talking about setting up your perches and things of that nature. All right, so up next, we're going to talk about how I would like to regulate humidity if I was building this enclosure. Now, this is just how I would do it. Everybody has their own ways of doing things. Like I said, this is just how I would do it, and it kind of gives people a baseline. If it works all the same, it's all the same. So what I like to do whenever I'm setting up a chameleon enclosure is a substrate tray. So what this is going to do is this is going to give you a nice tray to put substrate in. What I like to use is our Show Me ABG because it holds moisture really good. So yeah, you fill that up with some substrate and, you know, make sure it's moist because it's going to keep the rest of your enclosure moist. You know, another product that they have out, these the Reptile, you know, the misting systems. These are really good. I like them. They're all right. I still like to just spray my chameleons a couple times a day, but that's just me. These are super easy to set up, super affordable. And also Exoterra has this great thing here. It's the dripper plant. And what this does is you set it up inside of the enclosure and it sucks water up through the top to the top and it drips water down. So this is really good for your chameleon because it can drink off of it and everything like that. So those are a couple ways that I would regulate humidity. If you live in a really dry area or your home's really dry, you can, you know, cut pieces of PVC or anything like that to kind of close off the edges on your enclosure. So let's talk about airflow. You know, your chameleon's home. So you can start out, you know, with the bare bones Reptile or any other screen cage by any other you know, builder. That's definitely where you want to start. So, you know, you really have to see where chameleons come from. So they live in trees. So it would not make any sense to take your chameleon home and set it up in a 10-gallon fish tank. It just doesn't work like that. That's not how they live, and it's just not going to be optimal for your animal's life. It's going to be miserable, and it's not going to be doing what it needs to be doing. So, you know, we always suggest, you know, something like this, or, you know, some of the manufacturers do make chameleon kits. And these are very nice, you know, comes with pretty much everything you need to start out with. The only thing I would suggest changing again is the UVB bulb. You know, get a good 10.0 in there. But these work great. And you really have to have like your airflow. You have to have good ventilation, but in some situations you might have too much ventilation. And like I mentioned before in the video, you can always cover maybe two sides of it to kind of slow airflow a little bit, or maybe you just mist it a little bit more. But yeah, these are always what we suggest. You know, these do come in multiple sizes. You know, so maybe if you start out with a baby chameleon, you can get a smaller kit and work your way up to the large or extra large kit. So like I mentioned earlier, you know, chameleons do live in trees, and our job as reptile keepers is to replicate their natural environment as much as possible. So with that being said, you know, after you get your arboreal, you know, you get your enclosure set up, you're gonna wanna use things like bendy vines to give them, you know, areas to climb. You can use, you know, jungle plants to give them stuff to climb on. Personally, I like to use wood. You know, I like to use grapevine and ghost wood and things like that to just kind of build that environment for them to climb and to be able to thermal regulate. You also want to kind of give them places to hide. All right, so we've talked about the setups. We've talked about the different lighting. Now here's a male Panther Chameleon. He's all fired up. He's pretty pissed off at me. A lot of times chameleons, you know, it's a 50-50. They can be nice or they can be mean, but yeah, this is a Panther Chameleon, super beautiful animal. I'm gonna put him up before he bites my finger off again. So this is a Jackson's chameleon. Jackson are actually one of my favorite species of chameleon. They are sexually dimorphic. You know, this is a pretty male. Females look very similar. They just don't have horns, but I love these guys because they're like triceratops. Super awesome species to keep here. These guys actually give a live birth whenever they breed, so they're super neat. They're amongst one of my all-time favorites. All right, and then lastly, the most commonly kept, probably the most commonly kept chameleon species in the reptile hobby is the veiled chameleon. This is a male and this is a female. You know, the males are generally a lot prettier than the females are. They fire up really nicely. Yeah, these guys are a lot of people's favorites now. They can get pretty big. We've had some veiled chameleons that are like 5 inches tall. They get massive, and yeah, these guys are super neat, super friendly to work with. You know, if you follow all of the steps that we gave you, you know, in the video, you could easily keep these guys. So we've showed you the enclosures for the chameleons, we've showed you the lighting for the chameleons, we've showed you the diets for the chameleons, and we even showed you the chameleons. Chameleons are a very delicate, you know, reptile to keep. They're more of a look, don't touch species, but if you follow the guidelines in the video, you'll be able to keep yours happy and healthy for years to come.